Hello there. So I've been asked by the lovely Sean Porter, who you are being subjected to, sadly, in this presentation. I have been tasked with speaking about someone from my distant past. For those of you that don't know, my name is Luis Garcia. I'm a body piercer. I've been piercing for 38 years. Quite a long time. I'm pretty old, as you can tell by the gray. So I did used to pierce for a little bit in the Washington, D.C. area, and there used to be this mythical piercer named Logger in the D.C. area. So I have been tasked with telling you a story about Logger and my experiences with Logger back in those days. So this is around mid-90s is when I moved to D.C. At the time, that's where I got my formal apprenticeship. I had been a self-taught piercer, kind of, learning from, Piercer the Pro and the PFIQs as best as I could, doing stuff with my friends, working at head shops, and then I actually got myself an apprenticeship there, and I worked at a shop called Perforations. Now, at the time, the only places to get piercing was Perforations, and then there was the Leather Rack, which at the time had a piercer named Rindy, who then became Ryan. But there was also this mythical person that I had heard about, Logger. Now, Logger I had only heard about. I hadn't had the chance to meet him yet at this point, but I kept hearing these stories about Logger. Logger was definitely really involved in the gay leather community, and heavily in the fetish and the dom community. So I kept hearing these rumors that, he had his boys, and there was always this rumor that he would castrate his boys, that he at least castrated at least one of his boys. And I was always like, nah, whatever, that's crazy. People aren't doing that. Like, I had met people that were castrati at that point. I think I had probably already met Gelding at that point, who lives in Florida. So I knew that there were people that were into that, but I was just like, oh, this is just hearsay or whatever. I had met people that had been pierced by Logger. Logger at that point didn't work at a shop. Logger pierced out of his house, and you got choices when you got pierced by Logger. Apparently the choices were, you could get pierced in his dungeon, or you could get pierced in his bedroom. Either way, you had to get completely naked no matter what you were getting pierced, whether it was your eyebrow, whether it was your navel, whether it was a genital piercing. It didn't matter. Even if it was just an eyebrow or a helix piercing, you had to take all of your clothes off, and your choice was to get pierced in his bedroom or to get pierced in his dungeon. Which, I mean, for that kind of subculture, but actually tracks and makes sense. But there was always these rumors that I would hear about, he castrated, he keeps the testicles of the one boy around his neck as a necklace. And I was like, man, whatever, no way, like, that's crazy. Nobody would do that. Like, that's people just saying stuff. So finally, at one point, probably closer to my, like, the end of my time in DC. So we're pushing, it's the end of the mid-90s. And I go, and I was, openly gay. I'm still openly gay, but I was out, but I was underage still. So I had been managed to sneak into a lot of the gay bars and stuff underage, because it's naughty. And I did end up going to this one leather night. And I remember people mentioning, oh, Logger's here. And I was like, oh, I might finally get to meet this mythical Logger that I've heard so much about, that everyone's been talking about. So I remember someone points him out to me, and it's just, you want to see, you get this mental picture of someone in your head, like how you imagine someone to be. And it's funny because, these are people that are living just regular lives during the day, and this is just like their nighttime, their subculture. Logger was a piercer, kind of, on the side, essentially, at a certain point. I believe that, I forget what they did. They worked for the government, I want to say, memory serving, I'm searching the memory banks. So I said, pointing him out, and in his leather garb or whatever, but just kind of unassuming, still like, really prim and proper, clean cut looking, interestingly enough. And then I just remember I'm walking towards to where Logger was, and I remember he looks at me and he's like, oh, you're Luis, you work at Perforations for Drew and Tashi. And I was like, yep, that's me, and then at that time I didn't work for them anymore. I started working for his ex-boss from the Leather Rack for industrial body piercing, whatever, yada yada, who cares, none of that matters. And then I just looked down around his neck, and he had a jar with two preserved testicles in the jar, like in a little small jar, sitting around his neck. It actually was true. I didn't believe it, and I was just like, "What?" And I looked down, and I just remember he's like looking down, he smiles, and he's like, "Yep, everything they say is true." And he winked at me, and then walked away. And he was like, "Oh, it was nice to meet you." And that was my experience of meeting Logger in the flesh. Like it was this almost like a mythical creature that I finally got to meet in person, and that everything that people were saying about that one aspect of it was true. So it was definitely pretty interesting. So yep, Sean had asked me to share that little tidbit with you. So hopefully that worked out. So also, Sean, never forget, it's theft.